The news continue with a story you'll only see on WUSA 9. Imagine sounds as loud as a freight train blaring outside your front door as early as 7 o'clock in the morning. That's your early morning wake-up call. That's what one D.C. neighborhood is dealing with.
Yeah, and naturally, they are desperate for it to stop and furious with the D.C. government for not doing more to help. After we started asking questions, a team of D.C. noise enforcement officers, they showed up today, you can see here, to experience what neighbors have put up with for years.
Yes, Chief Investigative Reporter Eric Flack found out it's led to a protest of the protesters.
Nestled among the multi-million-dollar homes in D.C.'s Tony Kalorama neighborhood, residences of foreign ambassadors put an international stamp on an exclusive community. But neighbors say what's happening outside the Chinese ambassador's residence on 23rd and S Streets is more than a first world problem. It's just not right. For nearly 2 hours most mornings, protesters descend on this neighborhood corner with bullhorns to air grievances with the Chinese government. At decibel readings so loud, the noise reverberates for blocks.
All right, it's just after 7 o'clock in the morning, and already we're getting noise levels over 100 decibels. Now, a lot of these bullhorns are just laying right there on the sidewalk. The protesters are actually just standing across the street. Keep in mind, there are homes and families and residents all around this neighborhood.
Sound experts say the 100 decibels neighbors routinely wake up to is equivalent to a freight train passing by. From 7 a.m. until shortly after 9 a.m. when the ambassador leaves for work. Some days they even come back for a couple hours in the late afternoon just before dinner. It's been going on for roughly 2 years now.
It's nothing to do with the Chinese or the First Amendment. It's simply an issue of noise.
Don Friedman is president of the Sheridan Kalorama Neighborhood Council.
Do neighbors deserve better?
Is that a rhetorical question? Of course they deserve better.
The neighbors are complaining the noise is too loud. What do you say to the neighbors?
I spoke to the protesters using a translator app on their phones. Their complaints revolve around land and financial disputes with their government.
We feel very sorry for the neighbors around us, but we cannot stop protesting because we have no other way.
This protester told me the volume is the point, their way of demanding a meeting with the Chinese ambassador. But neighbors say they're the ones caught in the middle. And as this email shows, they're not messing around. Sent in September to a group planning ways to fight back, the email went so far as suggesting hiring a private investigator to gather information on the protesters as a way to get them to stop.
I think we're at a tipping point for the neighbors.
Carol Feld is a local ANC commissioner demanding change.
Kids don't want to come home for holidays. People don't want to host friends at their home. Right now where people just can't stand it and they don't see an end in sight, and it's just become unlivable. And what's happening here can happen anywhere.
Why? DC's Noise Control Act. Almost 50 years old, the law includes exemptions for First Amendment demonstrations. Not only do demonstrators have no sound limits outdoors, the only way the protest could be shut down for violating the noise ordinance is with readings over 80 decibels inside the nearest home, and only if a city inspector does the readings. But enforcement of the noise ordinance has been kicked around in recent years from agency to agency within D.C. government, leaving neighbors frustrated.
During the day, MPD says it's a First Amendment and they can't do anything about it.
That may now be changing after hearing the angry complaints from residents and hours before WUSA 9 was set to go to air with this story. Noise enforcement officers from the district walked the neighborhood, recording decibel readings from outside nearby homes and inside the Chinese ambassador's house.
Thank you for coming.
Although it remains unclear if those readings violated the current noise ordinance.
I and my neighbors need your help.
DC Council is actually considering two different bills addressing noise issues in the city. But as written right now, neither would do anything to solve the problems of people who live near the Chinese ambassador's residence. DC told us Tuesday's noise readings will be passed along to council members, who will then decide if they want to tweak the new legislation to add stricter noise limits in DC, even in the case of First Amendment demonstrations like this one. Unless the council intervenes, the protesters say their message will continue to echo throughout this community, and with sound up.
If the Chinese government does not solve the problem for us, we will continue to protest until forever. Forever. On and on. Day after day. Day after day. Day after day. Day after day.
Wow, that's a tough situation there in that neighborhood. Well, some neighbors say they want the State Department to get involved. They argue bullhorns go beyond free speech and that this is flat-out harassment of a foreign diplomat, and that is a violation of federal and international law.
Yeah, the State Department told us its legal department has reviewed the case. They say the protesters are within their First Amendment rights.
We'll continue to watch this story for sure.